I'm Patty Ringenberg, and on this episode of Living on Purpose, we welcome one of the most talented residents in the Larksfield Place community and in the broader community, Mrs. Marilyn Killian. We just came out of the Living It campaign, which is a challenge to try new things in 4 areas: social engagement, intellectual vitality, physical health, and purpose and fulfillment. Now, I can't think of anyone who embodies that more than you. I mean, you're so spry and peppy. You play so many musical instruments, and you're just the social butterfly too of the community.
Well, I enjoy all of it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's how I can keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
now playing the flute in particular is a very special thing to you. You want
Yes.
to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I was introduced to the idea of playing the flute when I was in 4th grade. And I said yes. From the high school band director was the one who taught in the elementary school. And so he liked to keep track of the musical people in the elementary school. And I said, yes, I'd like to do that. And my folks found a flute that was called a flute. It was kind of marginal as on the quality, but it had been remade. And that's what I started on in 4th grade and made good progress. And then in the 5th grade, he said, this is the same band director, would I like to come over to the high school and play in the flute section when I was in 5th grade?
Wow.
And did I have a friend who might come with me? Because he had 2 seniors graduating and he was trying to fill those chairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yes, I'll ask my friend Ann. And she said yes, and they got her a flute, found it, I don't know where they bought it, but we both played and went over and played in the high school band from 5th grade on, and enjoyed it immensely, including the marching band. So I continued to play the flute, and when I actually got to 9th grade, the band director had changed to a different man, and Mr. Chard was his name, and he was very musical, and he said, Marilyn, I'd like to ask your parents if we could find you a new flute and buy it on the school discount, because you can really play well, but you need more chance on it because your flute is sort of not good enough for what you could do. Mm-hmm. So my mother did that, I got a nice flute, and for the first time in my life, I didn't realize that a Haynes flute was the top of the line, and it was closed holes. It was called a plateau flute, and I played that flute through high school and through my music degree at Missouri University of Columbia, Missouri. I played that one until then, and then later I was introduced. I got a French model flute, which is the top of the line Haynes. So that's my flute story.
Oh,
so now I can play. This is a wonderful flute that I have now. So I played that all my life, and I taught private flute lessons, and played in the band and orchestra at Missouri University, and took private lessons in my graduate work at the University of Illinois.
okay.
So I'm a lifetime flutist.
Oh, wonderful.
And,
Well, I know one of your crowning achievements, you've gotten many awards and honors, but one of your crowning achievements is as the founding director of the Wichita Community Children's Choir. So tell me
okay.
about that.
That was the most wonderful thing, I think. And that inspiration that Wichita, Kansas is a musical city, and the fine arts in performing arts in bigger cities, but we could do it. I said, we could do it. I've done this in school, to start a choir up from scratch. I shouldn't say from the beginning, build it from the floor up. And so I had that experience at Kinser Elementary School. When I came back from graduate school, I got an elementary music job and had a group of kids that wanted to come in. They'd rather sing than be on the playground for a whole hour. And they started singing, and they sang so well. I said, I called it my noon hour choir, but it evolved into the Kinsler Crusader Choir, and we went 5 different years, every other year, to the Kansas Educators State Conference and performed. And so that was a springboard. The Kinsler Choir was a springboard to go back to the idea of the city of Wichita having a representative children's choir in the performing arts. And my friend and I sent out survey cards to all of the elementary schools in Sedgwick County and directed it to 4th, 5th, and 6th graders and announced when the auditions would be. And that choir was wonderful. It evolved, and we went every time to Kansas State meeting for music educators. Every time we sent every other year an audition, recorded audition, and we got invitations from out of states, a lot of other states, who we sent to state, to Washington D.C., to Dallas, to Los Angeles. We had some of our members invited, and we went to St. Louis by invitation, Kansas City by invitation, and the choir is still going. I directed it for 15 years, and now this year they're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Wichita Community Children's Choir.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So that it all sprang from that elementary school noon hour choir. So.
Oh, and all the children's lives you've touched.
Yes, yes.
And music, you show them how music can be an important part of their life. And,
yes.
And make their lives so much better. So.
Right. I also had a large class of private flute students in my home when our son was young, and it was easy to do then. And yes, I love it. And I still play flute to this day.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, perform on it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I've played several times here at Larksfield. The last time was August 12th.
Right. Yeah, and you had a full house for that.
They said it was the largest audience they've ever had. They used all the chairs they had, and I think there were 99 or 100 chairs.
Oh.
And that many people.
Oh.
So I still, to this day, smile when I think about that.
Yes. Yeah.
And they loved it. And I got notes in my mailbox that after that, and that's unusual.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And you've also been playing piano for the Sunday services.
Oh,
too.
Yes, I love to do that. Dr. Pennington, Pastor Pennington, I call him, can play the piano very well.
Oh.
And that he doesn't. He's trying to keep that a secret, but I heard him playing, and I said, "Well, you could play all of these hymns," but then I thought, he's doing the sermon and all the other thing. I said, "Now, if you would like for me to, I can play every Sunday, because I don't have a church job anymore." But he said, "How did you learn to do all that?" And I said, and I can sight read. You have to be able to just look at it and play it. And I said, well, when I was 12 years old in my church, the longtime pianist for the worship service passed away. And they asked me if I could play. And I said, yes, I can play the hymns. So from 12 years old, he doesn't even know that. Pastor doesn't know that here, Pastor Pennington. But I enjoy it, and it's a big advantage if you can just look at it and play it. And that's what you have to be able to do. And I haven't played for a long time. When I first came, I played often for the Golden Oldies choir here that are Larksfield people, residents, because their regular one had an injury. I don't know, it was a foot or a knee or something that so I said, well, I'll play it until she can come back. And but now they had a problem for this coming Sunday, and Meg Beck, the music therapist here, asked me if I would play, and I said, oh yeah, I'll play. And she brought me the notebook, and I started on looking at that last night. And they're fun songs.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
so that's, I sub whenever I want to, when I'm needed. That's all.
Because you have the music gift that you can share with others.
And I can, why else am I here? If you can't help.
Right.
If you help, I would help.
Well, I know that you had a near-death experience several years ago. Do you want to share with us about that?
Yes, I will. In 2010, quite unexpectedly, I was awakened by excruciating pain and vomiting in the middle of the night. And I thought, well, I guess I ate something that didn't agree. And I felt all right the next day. And so, but the next night it happened again. And so my husband Don and I both said, well, we have to call the doctor, and we did. Got the doctor on the phone. He said, meet me at 13th Street and Ridge Road West, and I don't have the x-ray thing to do to see what's going on. And meet me and we'll take x-rays and we'll see what's causing this. We did that. And he said, we have to go to Wesley immediately. You have an obstruction in the small intestine that nothing can go through the small intestine, and it's causing you to be the nausea. So we went to, he said, just go to Wesley, go to the entrance door, I'll meet you there. He said, and in the meantime, I will call the doctor on call, the surgeon on call. And he was there and ready, and we had the surgery immediately and seemed to be all right. But then it wasn't all right, because it kept paining and it kept hurting, and even after the surgery I was still having the vomiting and nothing, fever by now had set in. And come to find out, when they examined, I guess they took a sample of abdominal, because it was still the same place. And during the surgery, what had happened was a virus, an E. coli virus, had gotten into my blood. And E. coli, we all know, is devastating, is life-threatening. So we got busy on that, and but I didn't get any better. I was immediately put in ICU, or surgical ICU. But then they also found a second virus, the C. diff virus, was in the blood. So now I have two very bad, two viruses in the bloodstream. So I was in surgical ICU from January the 10th to March the 2nd,
Wow.
all the month of February. Thank goodness February's a short month, or it would have been worse.
Oh,
No, just kidding. But it just went on and on. And I couldn't have any, the food, everything that I tried to get, even the liquid came up. It wouldn't accept, my stomach wouldn't accept any kind of soft food or any food. So this is not good. So then, to make matters worse, they said, well, we're going to have to do a surgery to put a feeding tube in your abdomen. We're going to have to, one more thing in there. So I said, whatever you have to do. I just was sort of unconscious. And I didn't talk, I never spoke. From the time I was admitted, I lost, it seemed like the brain and voice both. I didn't know where I was. And my poor husband would say, repeat after me, I'm in Kansas. Nothing, no speech. So he was really frightened about the brain. So I was in ICU, I said, until March the 2nd. And at that time, I was transferred to intermediate care, they call it. So apparently I had improved in some way, but was still very ill and still no speech. And just the liquid in the tube in my stomach, the feeding tube. So that seemed to go on and on and on. I got a breakthrough when I began to have some pudding. And that was a bit better. But I still was not speaking. My doctors, I had 5 specialists, doctors, who some I knew and some I didn't. I knew Dr. Bond, and I knew Dr. Moore, who was contagious diseases, and I knew Dr. Chawla, who was kidney specialist. And so I knew pretty much who they were, and I knew that they were all very good. And they would each come up to me and say, hello, Marilyn, we're so glad to see you today, and be real friendly. And I could tell their voices, so I could tell which doctor it was, even with my eyes closed. But I would never answer. I never spoke, so we couldn't figure that out. So they just kept coming, and finally time went on and on and on, the same old. And one morning they said, well, Marilyn, this is probably our last visit to see you all together. We may come separately and see how you're getting along, but we have to go again now to see our private patients one at a time. And so this is probably the last time you might see us together. And I said, class dismissed. And it was the first words I'd spoken. Had not said a mumbling word. Until I heard them say, well, we're going now, and we won't come back together anymore. So I considered that to be a class. So at least my brain did something. But the whole room laughed. I didn't know what was funny. What they didn't realize the entire time is that I was hearing everything. And the brain was registering it. So that at least was a positive. But I was getting thinner and thinner, and down to 90 pounds from 120. That's too much weight. But you have to have real food to have. So the time came when they said they had done all they could do for me at Wesley, and that was the last time that all the doctors were together, and they came specially because it was like 10 or 10:15 in the morning when the bus was going to come to pick me up to take me to Catholic Care for rehab. And so they wanted to say goodbye, which is very nice of them. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to get out of the hospital. That's all I could think of. So they greeted me and I said, may I please have some ice chips? Because they wouldn't give me water, they were afraid I'd choke. So I said, and once again, they gave me 2 little ice chips on my tongue. And those just melt instantaneously. You don't feel like you've had any water. I said, please could I have, now that I'm leaving, could I please have a few more ice chips? They said, Marilyn, we're not trying to be mean to you, but that remark makes me have to say this. And this was Dr. Gaston, my surgeon. And he said, you're going to be released to rehab, and that's going to be 6 weeks long. And you're going to have to do a lot of physical therapy, and you're going to have to be very patient. See, he saw me as a very impatient person. And I said, okay, I can be patient. I'm going to do rehab, and I'm going to do it exactly right. Because I can't get released until I get it exactly right. He said, that's right. He said, we agreed we would not tell you what I'm about to say. But every week when we met for our conference around our round table, the last thing we did was to say around the table, can Marilyn survive this? And there's only one of the 5 of us that said consistently, you would survive. I said, well, that's a pretty slim chance. I said, 1 out of 5. But I thought, well, that's 20% of 5. He said, no, that's not 20%. That is a very, very, I'll just tell you that the survival rate of septicemia, like you've had with those double viruses in the blood this long, and your heart didn't quit, your lungs didn't quit, and it's just miraculous that we're having this conversation, that the survival rate for septicemia is in the low single digits. I said, oh, I guess I don't need any more ice chips. I said, made him laugh. I said, you haven't seen my patient side yet. I've had to be patient all these years that I've taught, because children don't get things just like that. And I went, until they got it, we kept repeating with a different approach. So I'm hoping that the therapy, the physical therapy, I'll do well with. But I don't feel like I have any muscles left. Of course I didn't. They'd all withered. So I said, okay, and I got on the bus and went. But we finally made it to Catholic Care. But they came out to meet me and had a person on each side because they knew they said she can't stand up to walk. And it's her legs, she's weak all over. So I went in and did my thing, and I ate my breakfast every day and the meals, and I was there for a long, long time. They said, no, we'll be here for 6 weeks. That'd be 42 days. I didn't count the days, but I did improve because I had been rather athletic all my life, and so, but my muscles were now gone. So we got to my birthday was April 27th, and I had gone there to see the 15th. So I did, unbeknownst to me, Don had called some of my, I think 4 or 5 of my best female friends, and they came, and my seamstress baked the most delicious cake. She's a great seamstress and a great cook. Got a great cake, and I could now eat it. I was better. So, and it happened that very day. That was the first time that they had let me walk on the walker without somebody holding onto the walker. And I walked into my birthday party walking for the first time independently on a walker. So that was a big day.
Yes.
And Don had even brought some of my favorite jewelry over in a cloth for me, so I could have my jewelry on for my birthday. And so after that, things began to look up at the end of April, and then we got my physical therapy was going well, and I was beginning to feel like I was going to make it, and got rid of. I was eating my meals and keeping them down, so I knew I could eat the birthday cake. And if people didn't eat their meal right away, they just came and took it away. Because it doesn't count if you just sit there and pick at it. You're really not doing it. So it came to be late March, April, and into May. I was still doing physical therapy and getting better and better. After I could walk on the walker, I got more confidence. And then came the night that it was probably 15 to 20 May. It was deep into May, and I noticed, and I had a private room, and I noticed I had lots of big windows. At least on 2 sides, big windows, yeah, because there's a corner over here, and I was over here in this corner in my bed. And I noticed that morning that it seemed to be lighter outside, like dawning of maybe 5:30 to 6. Of course, in the spring, that's what happens. We begin to have light sooner. And so my door was closed, so it was still dark in my room, so that's why I noticed the light outdoors. And all of a sudden, my room was filled with light. The door had opened, but nobody came in. It had been closed all night, so it wouldn't be disturbed, and I guess they monitored. I thought I probably had a body monitor. And the door had opened enough to let a wedge of light come in right on my bed. And I said, I thought it was going to be the morning nurse or the night nurse. And I said, and my favorite nurse was Miss Grace, so her name was Grace. So I said, Miss Grace, is that you? I was hoping it was. Did you come to plump up my pillow? Not a single sound, except that I felt like the wind was blowing in my room, that something was moving. And no answer. The wedge of light was still coming in. And I said, Miss Grace, are you here for fix my pillow? And I said it one more time, nothing, nothing, nothing. It was just the same feeling of that something was moving in the room. And I looked and looked and looked around to see what was going on, because I just I thought, am I having a hallucination? And am I dizzy myself? And so I think that I'm moving. I really tried to analyze it, because my mind, my thinking had come back somewhat, and it was. I'm just guessing on this, but it was long enough that I think it was at least 20 minutes. Because I think back at it, how many times I asked if it was Miss Grace and the pillow deal. And suddenly the light left and the door closed and it was quiet. And I just didn't know what to do. I just thought, after that I couldn't go to sleep. But the movement in the room had stopped. So I thought, well, something came in my room and moved around with no speech. Oh,
Wow. Oh.
but I had, that was a Tuesday morning, and it was now daylight, really getting daylight. And that's when the light seemed to have left. So it's not to be seen. So I ate my breakfast, and I ate better than usual. And it wasn't difficult. And luckily, I wasn't gagging. I wasn't. The throat muscles and all were now working with the food that had texture. Okay. So when I had my physical therapy, it felt so easy that I'd been struggling to do. All of a sudden, it was all easy.
Wow.
And I knew exactly, and again, I said, oh, thank goodness, my brain is still there, because I could remember exactly what came next.
Oh.
What the next exercise was. So I'd just kind of get started on it, and she'd say, well, that's the right one. Then she'd say, that's the right one. And I wasn't afraid of falling. I wasn't wobbling. So she said, well, that was very, very well done, Marilyn. I said, I didn't feel weak and I didn't feel like I would ever fall. I said, is it true that the physical therapists make the decision when a patient is released? And she said, yes, we take a vote and it has to be unanimous. I said, I want, the next time you come to me, as soon as you can come to me, I want you to bring your list and read it off in order, and I'll do it. And maybe I'll get a unanimous vote that I get to go home. And she did, and that's what happened. And she said, we decided we can release you on Saturday, May the 22nd. And I went home and had great home health, and still had the tube. And Don had to do that, and he was really nervous about that. But I didn't get the feeding tube out of my stomach until a long time, because my surgeon had to prove it, and he wanted me to weigh 100 pounds. And the fifth time I was there, the fifth appointment, I weighed 98. And I said, oh, that's so close. And so I thought, will I do that? And he, this is great, he put it off on his assistant to take me back to the table. And so I thought, well, I'll never get it out, because he's probably the one that has to pull it. But we were just talking and talking and talking. And all of a sudden she went, oh, she just jerked it just like that. We were just, and she did it just, it was just like that. And it took the flesh and all. My doctor had a appointment with me a week after I'd had the feeding tube jerked out of my side, out of my abdomen. And he said, it's already beginning to heal. He said, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I gradually gained weight, very, very gradually. But I never did get up to, well, I guess I got back to 120 a few years ago, but I'm not that now. I lost a lot of weight after I lost Donna. You just can't help it. Yeah. So I will tell you this, I have no prescription drugs, 0. I have very ideal, that my cholesterol, the 3 cholesterols are low normal. And my blood pressure is something like 107 or something over 96. I mean, it's very, very low.
Mm.
So I think the good Lord willing, I'm gonna probably have a lot of more years.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That's really
I hope so. I
awesome.
love my place. I love my apartment, and the only thing is, I miss my Donald. But he made it to 90, and so that was his goal.
Yeah.
And so he said goodbye because he that was all he could do. And my son Stephen in Seattle, we talk every day, either FaceTime or phone. And he comes to visit for several days, every 3 months or so. And I go out there. I will go again in the late August. I went last year in late August. And so we're still a family of 2.
That's great.
And so all is well.
You sure are.
I say thank you, Lord, every day.
Yes, yes.
I sure do.
Oh, yes.
Any little thing, I say thank you, Lord. Because I now know that He must be taking care of details.
Yeah, yeah.
Very busy.
He has been watching over you for sure.
He's watching to see how long I can go. I have had some great aunts who lived to be 100 and a little past 100 on my mother's side. But my mother made it to 92. But that wasn't, she was the next generation. But I don't know how the old timers did that.
I know, it's just amazing.
And one of those little aunts, great aunts, smoked a little corncob pipe. And she did it all her life. Long dress, long apron, and that little corncob pipe.
You have been such an inspiration. Thank you so much
Thank you, Patty.
for sharing with us,
Why are you
Marilyn.
so cold?
Oh, because it's cold outside. My hands are cold. Your hands are so warm.
I'm always warm.
You are a very warm-hearted
Once I got
person.
well, I'm warm.
That's right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
being here.
I've enjoyed it.
Oh, me
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, it's a long story, but hey, had a happy ending.
That's right. That's right.
I love living at Larksfield.
Yep. Oh, we love having you here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your